It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
Welcome to Declare Your Independence. With me, Ernest Hancock, here each and every day on the LRN.FM network here from Phoenix, Arizona, in the beautiful studios of Freedoms with an S, freedomsphoenix.com. I have on the line with me Ghada Talhami. She is there's a reason why the Arabic world isn't pro-American. And she's going to help us understand that. Now, she's a Emeritus professor in the Department of Politics at Lake Forest College, author of The Mobilization of Muslim Women in Egypt. Do I got you there, Ghada?
Yes, I'm right here.
Ghada, help me with, when you wrote the book, The Mobilization of Muslim Women in Egypt, mobilize them to do what?
Well, this was a study of the Islamic mobilization of women. That is the impact of the Muslim Brotherhood on women. And my point that I made there is that the Egyptians have really experienced every type of liberation ideology for women that one can think of. They started in the 1920s by shedding the veil. They started by trying to be very Western. And then they went during a socialist phase in the 1950s. This is a phase we call state feminism, when the most important thing was to provide workers' rights for women, to protect them in the workplace. And then under President Sadat, the women's movement was co-opted by his wife, and it became a veneer of westernization in order to demonstrate to his United States Western friends that he is really a very modern president. In the midst of all this, beginning in the 1970s, the Islamic movement in Egypt began to really concentrate on women, and that's very interesting. So I think maybe my title is a little bit misleading. I don't mean mobilizing all Muslim women. I mean really particularly women who are adhering to the Islamic ideology. And most of these were in the universities. We cannot forget that, but many of the veiled Muslim women you see on the streets of Cairo and in Egypt are really university grads. And they are important to the movement because they are voters, and they bring that kind of power with them. And they used to be very visible in demonstrations on behalf of Islamic issues. But then, there's a problem for the Muslim Brotherhood, and that's now coming to the fore. And that is the Muslim Brotherhood wanted really to, I would say, control the women's movement as much as they want. So one of their principles, and they wrote about this a great deal, was that, Muslim women can work, Muslim can be in the workplace, and they are in Egypt, but they cannot be heads of state, that the headship of state cannot be given to a woman or to a non-Muslim. And that became the great divide between the Muslim Brotherhood and between the other secular movements that you see today in Tahrir Square in Egypt. Because indeed what we're seeing is a civil society movement. It is not really a Muslim Brotherhood movement.
I saw there was a lot of YouTubes that kind of made it into our culture with English translations and so on, and it would give us the impression that it was young people and young women that were very inspirational for getting the men into the street. Is that true?
Absolutely, absolutely. You want to look at the movement called the April 6th movement, which is 3 years old. It's a breakaway movement from another smaller, a big group actually called Tomorrow, Al-Ghad. And the April 6th movement, which supported also a strike, a worker strike in 2008, is run by women and men who use the social media. And I'll mention two women's names. One of them is a co-founder of the April 6th, and her name is Amal Sharaf. And there's another woman called Asma Mahfouz, who's 26 years old, who has been harassed by the authorities and the police because she mobilized young people through the internet. And she's the one who you probably saw using a bullhorn in the Tahrir to call on men to join. Historically, the appearance of women during demonstrations is very effective in the Muslim world. They actually lead demonstrations. It's extremely effective. And you notice these women are wearing jeans. They're not covering their hair. They're very Western, very secular, and I think very politically sophisticated.
Well, politically sophisticated. This is one thing that I'm really hoping that we get to talk about today. And I'll tell you what's going on from our perspective. You are where in the United States? You're in the United States, right?
Oh, absolutely. I'm in Chicago.
Okay. Now, I want to preface this a little bit and have you think about it because I need your help. We're part of the love-evolution, okay? We were behind the ones that did the graphics and so on for the Ron Paul love-evolution, the revolution around the 2008 presidential campaign. Mm-hmm. And what that did is it gave an entire young generation the concept, the idea that, I own myself, that this corrupt government, what's happening with our economy, what's happening with the wars and all this, terror threat and everybody's an enemy and all this we're just not buying it, okay? Mm-hmm. So what they've done is I want to share with the people in Cairo because I know that Cairo is the center of the pop culture of the entire Arabic world. Mm-hmm. So I'm going, if we were to send, we just had in the last segment, I just got an email from Cato. Cato is a think tank and they got their own issues, but one thing they do have is they have the Declaration of Independence that is printed in a green book with Arabic titles on it in Arabic. To get the Declaration of Independence in Arabic, then there's another flash animation called The Philosophy of Liberty that just explains in a very simple 7-minute film that is just very, almost impossible to misconstrue, is that as a human being, you are your own ultimate ruler. You own yourself. Because if you don't own yourself, well, then somebody else owns you and you're a slave.
Oh, that's really, what should I say? That's very inspiring.
Well, this is my question to you. If I were to, and we're going to be spending thousands of dollars on this. Mm-hmm. We don't want to get involved in who's going to take over whatever. Who's going to be in charge. We're like, hey, how about nobody be in charge? Let's replace the government with nothing, okay? So that's how far we go. So I am not worried about that. I want to free as many minds as we can. So I'm going, if I'm free them, to what? Because what's screaming, and I get the Obama administration and Hillary and everybody else, well, we got to keep Mubarak there or somebody else that would be his, clone. As we go through this democracy process by which we'll let the people to have a voice, and then they're just going to be, wanting more of what somebody else has, and it's not really freedom. So I'm going, if we can infect the entire Arabic culture with the idea of what made America, the old America before it went corrupt, and what made America so prosperous so quickly was the concept of self-ownership and that you get to keep what's yours. And somebody can't, wear a badge and have a gun and a shiny seal on something and say, we get to steal your stuff, So if you can do that, what kind of impact would that have in the young Islamic and Arabic world?
I think it will be very empowering if it is young people to young people. I think what they don't want to see over there, and they're making it very clear, is somebody telling them what to do. And you made yourself clear also that that's not your intent. What they have suffered from is the idea during the Bush administration.
Okay, now wait, let's go. We're going to break. Now, I wanted to get you thinking. I got you thinking. So when you come back, I'm hanging on every word, okay? So go ahead and start thinking about this because we're doing this within days, if not, the most by end of next week. So when this goes, and you can help us where to send some too. We'll be right back with Ghada Talhami in just a little bit.